So people have to have value because they understand what they're capable of doing, which means they have to practice something and have something they're willing to provide. If they provide that value, then they're going to go ahead and learn about themselves and also learn how to harvest resources. So resources matter because without resources, one cannot define who they are, their own identity, their environment, and their selves. So that's why I teach consciousness after I teach money, not before.
What's up, guys? We're here for another episode of the Discipline and Legacy podcast. Had the pleasure of coming to PJ Ghadimi's shop here, being able to interview him. Guy's got an amazing story. I've been following him on social media for a while now. Definitely killing it, man, in all areas of life.
I appreciate that.
I mean, it's inspirational for sure. And
a long time in the making. It's been 20 years now that I'm on the internet. Actually, a little bit under 20 years. 2007. So,
and that's the key, right? Consistency
and longevity and surviving the internet.
That's everybody's going the longevity route now. So it's and
people want to live longer. I want to live better. I don't really care to live longer. I'm fine if I die at 80 as long as it was a good 80.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Quality, not quantity.
Exactly. Yeah.
But no, I really appreciate the opportunity to come in and interview you. And obviously, Discipline and Legacy podcast is kind of geared towards hearing people's stories, right? Most folks, see somebody who's successful, and they don't get to hear the whole story. They don't get to hear, the adversity when it was hard to pay the electric bill.
I never had that.
Well,
believe it or not.
But just for an example, whatever that was for you, you know what I mean? So let's just start there. Let's hear the PJ story for how you got to where you are now.
I mean, there's a lot to that story. I'll give you the kind of rundown, then you can ask me whatever you want to know about every aspect of it. But
yes,
I immigrated from Iran when I was a child due to the war. We went over to France because we couldn't come to the United States. So me and my mom, single mom, basically lived in France for about 10 years. Eventually, she built a very small business in France, nothing fancy, just to keep the lights on. And then from there, we ended up in LA. From LA, I ended up in Washington, D.C., and in Washington, D.C. was where I basically built myself from the age of 14 on. Was a telemarketer because I didn't have a green card early on, so just found a side job, to make some money. I became really good at sales very young, from 14 to 17. By 18, I was the director of that company. It was basically a company called U.S. Remodeling, was like roofing, siding, and that kind of stuff in the greater D.C. area. And I finally got a green card, finally got the ability to work, legally. Mm-hmm. So when I was during that job, and then I took that and I brought it over to banking. So at 18, I had a lot of sales experience. So I got into a management training program in a bank and then became one of the youngest bank managers in America. And then from there, just carried on for a couple of years in banking, became a VP, headed a bank in what we call the airport banking project, which was having banks inside airports. And became really successful, made a lot of money, 6-figure salary, 7-figure bonus, and then basically got fired. And when I got fired, I never really had a big, serious job before this one, so it wasn't like I had a history of, I'm going to jump bank to bank and do stuff. Nobody would really hire me at that level that I was at because I had grown too fast, too early. And also, timing played a role in it. This was 2000 to 2005, the key of when banking was exploding, everyone was doing mortgages, banks were making billions. And right at the peak of when things were going to start going the opposite way for banks, I kind of get fired. So it's not like other banks are now rushing to let me hire a child to basically, it was a star child of another bank to now, without a degree or anything, to come in and run this bank. So, long story short, I couldn't come up with where to actually put my effort. So I started trying to start a company. It failed miserably for a year because I was trying to get back in my bank. I'm going to start consulting and this and that. And then fucking went to shit. And then a year later, I had money. So I wasn't poor. I had saved a ton of money. So I left banking pretty healthy financially. And I had done some real estate investments during that time. So I had $3 million to my name. And I started the world's first fund for exotic cars, watches, and art back then. And it did well, we made good money, but I looked at the writing on the wall, for 10, 15 years down the road, and I didn't see a sustainable model. So after I did this for a couple of years, as I was doing that, I started working on the online space, meaning I decided that the internet was the future. And very early on, I started focusing my efforts on building an online platform or something around the online space. I just had no experience. So I found people I surrounded myself with that had tech experience, and I understood what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring a magazine online that was at the time known as Heavy Hitters. It was like the stories of unknown people who were successful, like people that had cars, but nobody knew who they were. They weren't like celebrities. And they would do their stories. And so I went to them and I wanted to become their online arm because as a child who's basically naive in approach, I was looking at collaboration instead of competition. I went to this magazine. They told me to go eat shit. So I built a website that basically became that called Secret Entourage, and I grew it to like well over 100,000 members. And through that, it took like 4 years to make our first like 40 grand, and then the year after that 300, the year after that 3 million, and that was basically the online figuring out. Spent 7 years figuring out the online model.
Yeah.
And then after that, every community I launched online made well over $1 million in its first 6 months, first month, and then until we figured out how to do over $1 million on a product launch and so on and so forth. But that process basically took 7 to 8 years of really figuring out the internet and like how to make money online. And then through that, I realized that like I really wanted to be a teacher. So I've authored 12 books on human consciousness, human awareness, self-awareness. And then my biggest book, well known, is named Third Circle Theory. And then past that, we continued to build online communities until these online communities kind of like created these platforms and opportunities to really expand past that. And so today, like I own a portfolio of businesses all in the cars and the watch space. And while I'm not a car dealer, I own probably the largest brokerage house for exotic cars in America, the largest platform that sells watches, probably globally currently, and then just a lot of different financial institutions that are focused on funding and fueling the back end of a lot of car dealers and jewelers. So, I'm integrated in that world now, but mainly from the back end instead of the front end. And on the front end, I'm just well known on the internet for teaching people how to leverage alternative assets like cars, watches, and art and handbags as asset classes of investing, which most people for 20 years have said those things are liabilities. You should never own a nice watch. You should never own a nice car. You should never do this. And for 20 years, I've been saying the opposite. So when you say it long enough, I predicted every single financial ups and downs that the industries would have. I predicted COVID when every car dealer said, no, before COVID, the world's going to crash and everyone knows going to have money for a pandemic. I said the opposite. I just recently predicted over a year ago that the exact month, date, and time that the entire exotic car industry would surge for the last 6 months, which it has. Every single car value that would have surged, every single down to the granular pennies of like what things are going to be worth. And I have a unique algorithm and formula now that's been designed to basically get in front of alternative asset markets. And I share that with my communities online, known as Exotic Car Hacks, Watch Trading Academy. And we teach people how to make a lot of money in cars and watches, basically as individuals, not as dealers.
Right.
So that's the gist of the story, like basically what I do today. So, we built a lot of real businesses now that make a lot of real money. But over the years, the big thing was learning how to basically get on the internet before the internet was a popular thing,
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, the biggest thing that really popped out to me was like not even really having any school and like teaching yourself, really.
So I've never read a book, and I hate reading. And I dropped out of college after 3 months because I was already driving a 911 Turbo, and it was already bizarre for the faculty to like. They're like, "Why are you here?" So I just left because I was like, if you can't figure out why I'm here and I can't figure out why I'm here, then why the fuck am I here? So I just left school and never came back. I sucked in high school, and I've always been a believer that you don't learn from reading people's books. You learn from watching how people live. And so watching incredible people that have been mentors to me through my time without knowing they were even mentors, just based on how they moved, how they thought, why they made certain decisions. Even in banking, like in a job, watching the best regional VPs and people, like how they think, what they say, just through a conversation or just through like their thoughts about how they manage teams, really led me to becoming who I am. So it's mainly from observation, which is why my book, Third Circle Theory, is called Purpose Through Observation. Because I'm a big believer that people will say something, but how they live holds significantly more weight than what they say. Like if I say, you should invest in cars, and you're like, great, what do you invest in? Oh, I have a bunch of real estate. And you're like, I don't get it. Like what, that doesn't fucking make sense. If I tell you, you should own your house, and you're like, oh, what do you do? I rent. You're like, I don't understand. Like, why aren't you follow? If this is what you're telling me to do, why aren't you doing it? So how I live my life says more about me than what I tell people to do. Now, for me, part of the reason I've survived the internet for 20 years is because I've always aligned the two. So what I've told people to do, I've done myself. When I tell people, hey, you guys should buy Courier GTs because they're worth a lot of money. Well, I've bought, my own Courier GTs, like knowing that they're going to go up. So like I tell people, I'm like, don't ever follow people's advice. Follow what they do for themselves because that tells you where their head's at, not where they want your head to be at.
I think that's important too for the internet. You have to see that kind of authenticity too, because most people pick up.
This is
on
the only way you
bullshit.
survive the internet. Because I don't think they pick up on bullshit early. That's the problem. People pick up on bullshit very late, and so they go down the rabbit hole for a while before realizing their heroes are basically the con artists that they never thought were out there. So they fall for that before they go, oh man, I was fooled. Another guy that did something, but. The signs were there from the beginning, if you actually pay attention. Like, people tell you exactly who they are, and they show you exactly who they are without you needing to hear a single word they're saying. And if you pay attention to that, but here's the thing. Most people don't understand how money works, and they don't understand the math behind certain things, so they don't know what is real and fake. Like, if you don't own a Bugatti, you don't know the math behind the Bugatti. Yeah. So what happens is, if someone shows you a Bugatti, you get excited, and you go, oh, this is... Of course, he's rich as fuck. He has a Bugatti. But like, if you don't understand the math behind it, you don't understand what makes someone rich or not owning a Bugatti, and how they own it matters, and where they got it matters, and how it's registered matters, and all of these things play into it. But if you're not in that environment, generally, you don't understand the math. Like we always say, like, people don't know math at different levels, but they try to make sense of life from their math. So if you're poor, you have a $1,000 problem or $100 problem, but yet you're trying to make sense of people who live that have $10 million problems, and you're trying to resolve that problem through $100 thinking. Yeah. And usually it doesn't work. So it doesn't math. So you don't understand the solution of why that person has this problem. Yeah, exactly. So we can only resolve mental math at the problem-solving scale that we have. So if I can solve $10 million problems, I don't understand the math between $300 million problems. So therefore, because I don't have any, so I don't understand that math. So therefore, if I had a $10 million problem, I know how to solve it, right? And it's not going to kill me, meaning like I'm going to be able to solve it. I may or may not be hurt from it, but it won't kill me. It won't change my lifestyle. Now, if you told me if I have a $100 million problem, then I would tell you, yes, it would change my lifestyle significantly. So I would have to generally figure out how to solve that. It's not something that I could say, I don't need to deal with it. Let's get someone, let's pay that guy, an attorney, to figure it out and fix it. So there are scales to problems with zeros that people have, and they don't understand how the math works at higher end problems because they're not studying that before they basically get there. So someone has to build a $10 million company before they figure out how to build a $100 million company. But people always make goals to try to build $2 billion companies when they don't even understand the math at the $10,000 level or $100,000 level.
It's a stair step.
It always is, because that comes before the next. Like 10K comes before 100, 100 comes before a million, but yet people have grandeurs of like $1 billion companies when they don't even understand how to make 10 grand in business.
It's nice to have that outlook or mindset, right? Shoot for the stars, land on the moon. But I think, like you said, you got to go through the process, and sometimes even having that.
I disagree with that statement, shoot for the stars, because when you shoot for stars, when you don't understand how to get to space, the problem is that you're sitting there holding your dick in your hand for 10 years, figuring out how to do something that doesn't math at the scale you have. When I was poor, because I grew up really poor, I didn't know the value of 10K. I didn't understand the value of 100K. I didn't understand. So what do you say as a child all the time? You say, I want to be a millionaire when I grow up. Okay, why a millionaire? Do you even know how to spend $1 million? Do you even understand that $1 million is nothing? Like, it's bullshit. But no, you don't understand that until you have $1 million, right? So what I always tell people is what I figured out very young was that if I learned how to make $10, it was better than making no money. Yeah. And if I learned when I had $10 how to make $100, I was better off than no money. And same vice versa. So I never expected myself to make $100 grand or $1 million or 10 million bucks at any given time in my life. I just allowed myself to make the next level. And because I was really good at each level, it led to the next level. So it kept growing. Like, the value was in the effort. It wasn't so much in the aspiration. And I think if more people looked at life in that regard, like how many young people today say, hey, you know what? Like, I want to work for myself and I want to make $300K a year. And it's like, cool. Okay, everybody wants that. Okay, have you ever learned to make $50K a year? Have you ever made $100K a year? Have you ever made $150? Have you ever worked for someone else making $50 so you understand how hard that is before you make $100? Oh, but that's not cool. This guy on YouTube is making $10 million. Okay, you're not that guy on YouTube. And he made $1 million before he made 10 million. So let's go back to the beginning of like, are you going to go work for? I don't want to work for anybody. So therefore, I want the stage for a $300K opportunity before I understand the stage for a $5,000 opportunity. And this is why a lot of people don't work. Like a kid would rather today sit his ass at home and do no labor and make nothing for 3 weeks rather than wash 10 cars at $10 a pop, because he's looking for the fastest way to 10 grand, not the way to 10 grand.
Right.
So therefore, he will sit around for months never making 10 grand, while the other person maybe makes 1,000 a week at a time, and in 10 weeks makes 10 grand, versus the other kid in 10 weeks made no money. So even if that guy fell short after 10 weeks, maybe he made 5 grand, 6 grand, something. He has a structure to build off of. The other kid still is holding his dick in his hand, waiting for that 10K opportunity. So that's the difference between someone who makes money and someone who just sits around hoping the money comes to them and ultimately stays poor forever.
Yeah. That's the learning experience too, I think, is that as you make it to each step, you're able to learn the math for that step, that situation.
Correct, and
so
that's
then,
what I'm saying. You don't
exactly.
understand the next problem until you have that problem, to begin with. So
100%. Another thing I noticed too that you talked about was that, observation, being in the right rooms, being in the rooms. I mean, it would be safe to say that you were around some pretty successful people early
not really.
on.
No.
Or to be able to move up as quick as you did, that you
I don't
were able
know.
to learn
No, it
stuff
wasn't.
from Spoke.
I put myself in the company. So I had a job in banking. I was a banker, and sometimes I worked the teller line, meaning we had multiple jobs. So even as a manager, I was still in the teller line, talking to tellers. Sometimes I would notice someone had a big account, it had a couple of million in it or a couple $100,000 or something, that was significant. Right. And I was always curious, but I never was in those rooms with those people. So what I did was I would ask those people to coffee, and I wouldn't sell them banking services. I would just get to know them. And that's what differentiated me as a banker from other people. I was genuinely interested in how they were rich. I was just what do you do? And I wasn't like, you want to hire me? I'm trying to move from my job, like every other idiot today that's like, I want to come work for you. And I'm like, you want to survive 5 minutes working for me. But, I look at it that way, which is basically that as an individual, you have to be curious. And that curiosity might cost you money to be in that room or not. In some cases, I encourage young people to have nicer cars, buy watches and stuff. And people say, well, these are not essentials, they should save. And I tell people, I'm like, well, if the money doesn't devalue in what you're buying, then you can always get rid of it and get your money back. Yeah. So, but the access by having a nice car, I mean, you come to Cars and Coffee, you go to these places, you have a nice car, you show up, well, you have access to things that aren't accessible to you generally.
Right.
Now they're accessible because someone else with a 765 or some other car or something will say, hey, you should come with us, we're doing a rally, and then we're going to end up getting some lunch, and now you get to know two people you never met before. The part people don't understand in this game is even if you have, let's say you have a nice McLaren, and you're making payments on it, and you're struggling, you're like, man, $3K a month is a lot, it's not easy. So for some people it's easy, some people it's difficult.
Yeah.
Even if it's difficult for you, and you're in the vicinity of people whose lives are easy, and it's a byproduct of their success, not so much their rise to success, you're still in the same room. So that's the difference. And so an argument would be that even though on the surface you would say, well, I'm not on the same level because that guy can easily afford 10 765s and not give a shit and just burn them to the ground or whatever. And as soon as he's bored, he'll get another car. And for me, maybe I have to look at equity values. I have to look at the payments I'm making. Can I afford it or not? You're still in that same room.
Yeah.
So there is a value in being surrounded by people who understand that money has upside and money is not a generation of savings. Our parents were saving. They were the saving generation, where if you put money aside, you were capable of creating big things with the money you saved. We're not a generation of savings anymore. Meaning, there's no value. Also, when our parents put money in the bank, they earn 16%. Right. Something of value. And today,
it's 1%.
It's 0.01%. We don't want your money here. We want it investing in something else. So even banks discourage that, right? And so the generation has shifted. But to be around people who generally are enthusiastic of life, have projects going on, have ideas, are willing to try things, are always looking for the next angle, versus being in a room with people who are afraid of life, always want to save every penny, shouldn't be having great experiences, or constantly look at life from the lens of fear and safety rather than growth and just discomfort, is a mindset that's acquired. And I usually bring this to the attention of women that hang out with like exotic car circles, right? Imagine like you could have really hot chicks, right? Really, really hot chicks. And they're really insecure. So they don't think they deserve a really rich guy or anything. And they hang out with a bunch of peasants that drive Civics. They end up with the poorest, the worst fucking guys, right? And then you have average girls who are like the daughters of like super rich guys, whatever, and they hang out in circles and they're like 6 out of 10s. But they get all the richest guys, like crumbing up to them. So like your vicinity matters, and your value increases. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not saying that
six
like
is there, but that's what's there. So
exactly, it's what's in the room. Exactly,
right.
exactly. So if you're a 10 in that room, even better because everybody's like going there. But if you're a 6 in that room, you're still amongst people who are going to value different things than just your looks. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And when you're in that room with the other cartoons, you're only valued on your looks. So you have these different dynamics where being in the right room is very important, even if your value isn't a 10. Like to be in that room means you could be more valuable because people perceive value differently and they look for things differently, So in the same, like the guy that washes a car, goes to like a Honda guy and goes, how much? The guy compares it to what he gets at the car wash. He goes, I pay $12 at the car wash. What do you charge me? I charge you $20 to hand wash your car. But the guy at Lamborghini goes, I can't use a car wash because it'll destroy my car. Right. It's too low. It's this, it's that. So he's used to paying 70, 80 grand. So when you come up to him and you go, I charge you $60. And usually here's what happens. The Lamborghini is cleaner than the Civic because it's not used as much. It's 100%. Usually in better shape. So it's less effort for more money just because you're in that world and you're servicing that world. So my whole thing has always been to tell young people, find ways to get in that world. And if you get in because of your car or you get in because you trade watches and the people buying, at the beginning when you're not rich, the people buying from you are rich,
right.
then that's fine. Do that because you're now in that world and that world's going to evolve very fast because it's going to keep pushing your money up at a significantly faster rate than the fear of like fighting. And you see this also in Instagram posts where people say, $500 client takes 14 phone calls, like $50,000 client takes 1 text and wire sent, so that's the way it works because money velocity is not something poor people understand. It's only something rich people understand. So like all these things are reasons why being in the room with the wrong people is very dangerous in life.
But at the same time, networking is still a key there, right? Because then you find out the rooms that you want to be in, like you said, from car shows. That's what I wrote my car off as a networking expense. You know what I mean? Because of, taking it to these events.
Yeah, but what you're talking about is not networking. Networking to people today is I went to a Chamber of Commerce event where I went to a car show
business cards,
and I started trying to pitch people.
Right.
Like basically a sales fest where I'm trying to get rich people to buy from me.
I'm just hanging out with people.
Exactly. So the only way you can hang out with people in those rooms is if you're participating in what the room has to offer. So if you're an outsider and you walk into a car show on foot, no, you're not going to network with those people. You're basically like not a participant, you're a spectator.
Right.
And the room will not welcome you. If you, however, enter with a nice car, even if it's not the most expensive car, you don't have to be the richest guy in the room. You enter with a nice car that fits the model of what the room is. Now you're going to be welcomed by people because they'll once relate to, they were there too once. They weren't the rich guys. So they'll bring you up and they'll be like, hey, well, waiting till you get your nicer car, whatever. But you're now a participant. So, networks that are worth participating in are just that, participants, not spectators. So whenever people tell me they're going to a networking event and I'm going to network with rich people, I tell them they're morons. They have to participate in actual situations where those people are. Now, often we feel and we think that the car or the money is the only participation level, but sometimes it's just interest. They're very rich people that play tennis. They're very rich people at your gym. And you have commonality with people, even if it's not the car. You can always ride passenger in someone's car, but still arrive in an exotic at a car event, even if you're not yourself, like an exotic car owner. But just the association makes you a participant, not a spectator. Get it? That's the big difference. The participation is what gives the buy-in for people to talk to you. And also, wealthy people typically don't go down to being pitched what to buy, or what they want. They usually go down to expertise or having heard of someone through a referral. So they'll say, hey, who do you use as a realtor? Oh, this guy, dude, got me a commercial property. It was unbelievable. Okay, send me his number. Let me talk to him. He's a nice dude. I want to engage with him, right?
Yeah.
They don't go like, whose last business card did I have in my pocket that I could give less of a fuck about?
I give them back to people.
Yeah, well, I don't even accept them. So, I don't even let them talk to me because I go, if you suck so bad that your business card is the entry to conversation, not your track record. So no one knows you. You're at a fucking event passing out a card. You're useless. You're basically telling me you don't know how to use Facebook ads, Instagram ads. You don't know how to be successful in anything you do in life. So now you're here basically bottom feeding on whatever's available that you just can't go grasp in the world. If you were really good at what you did, what are the odds that you would be passing out fucking business cards to be known? Your work is what speaks for itself. Like, so if you're a realtor, great. As simple as this, there's 10,000 fucking realtors for every like fucking 5 houses that are for sale. What is different about you? Like, what do you do differently? Oh, I'm trying to get a listing. But why you? Like, what makes you special? Like, what? Oh, I have the biggest book of business from New York, and I can list your house and get it sold in 3 days, or I'll pay you 10 grand. Well, that's a pretty big fucking statement. I'm paying attention. What are you saying? Like, so like it's the confidence in the work that makes people successful at what they do, and then gets them referred. Not like I have your card in my pocket. Right. Hopefully, when I'm lost and confused, I'll remember to go in my 100 jean pocket and realize that I forgot that your card was there, and I can call you to come sell my house on that day. Like, no one gives a fuck,
Yeah. So as your path or journey to the top, or to moving up in your, the industry, you say you had a 9/11 at a young age, so you kind of worked your way into that same realm.
Well, I was in banking. I wasn't even in that industry, but I still drove. I drove a Lamborghini while I was a banker. That's one of the reasons I got fired, because everybody kept saying, they're like, bankers don't drive Lamborghinis. We're conservative people. Like, you can't get out of a suit. And yet, here's the two things that happened when I drove my Lamborghini to work. Every fucking person in the bank wanted to come work for me, because they didn't understand how a guy that was running a bank was driving a Lamborghini.
Well, that's your business model now. It's
exactly.
It's so attainable by the world that they just don't realize.
Well, it wasn't then, because nobody knew what the fuck was going on. But then this was like in the early 2000s. The Gallardo had just come out. It's not like there was like 50 Gallardos and people were financing them. Banks weren't even financing Gallardos. So at the time, just the idea of me having a Gallardo was a very rare thing. Now, it was still a financially sound thing. People didn't understand it. But again, at the time, it was a very rare thing. So they saw a guy with a Lamborghini. Everyone in the bank wanted to come work for me. The second piece was everyone that was an investor that wanted to get business done wanted to come do it with me, because they were like, oh, well, you're already successful. So I trust that if I gave you 500 grand to invest for me, you're going to know exactly what to do with it. And nobody could understand why I was so successful with this fucking car. And it was really simple, because they kept saying, oh, we have to be conservative. And this taught me something, that serving people is the absolute worst fucking thing you can do in the world.
Yeah.
Because advising people comes from a place of trust, where they feel you're at the same level, and not from a place of servitude. So there's this culture generally in corporate America that we're here to serve people. And that's the loser culture that basically completely kills. Like, it makes employees feel retarded. It makes them incapable of making decisions. It makes them constantly feel like they're coming from a place that is below those they're serving. So we do this also, for example, even in car culture today. Like, walk in Lamborghini. How many fucking Lamborghini salesmen own their own Lamborghini Revueltos separately, or they own Temerario separately? Not like driving a company car, but like they genuinely are like, I'm in my garage, I have a Ferrari, I don't care, I work in Lamborghini. I love exotics, I own one. None. So here's the argument. That's a place of servitude. It's like, hey, I work here and I know and I have knowledge about this because I work for them, but I can't really advise you. I can only serve what you're telling me to do. Like, what color would you like? Or here's some colors I've seen other people do. I've never done anything for myself, so I'm like basically a lost cause. So the same thing can then be applied. Why does the GM not drive? If he's making $300-400K a year, why is he not driving? Oh, well, I have access to cars. No, it's because you're poor. And people don't want to buy shit from poor people. Like, you get it? Like, they go there and they expect poor people to serve them. They don't like, nobody goes to a fucking like person on the street and go, which color Bugatti do you think I should buy? They're like, I'm sorry, what? Like, I drive a Honda. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, what are you asking me for?
Yeah.
Right? But you go to a guy that has a Bugatti when you have a Lamborghini and you go, hey, what are the maintenance costs like? Like, what is that like? Like, do you like it? Like, do you like the car? You don't ask people that don't have it. You go from a place of advising. So you work your way up. So no matter what, if you want to be in these groups, you have to participate and you have to become an advisor and not a servant.
Yeah, I feel like you've gained respect in that way too, because most folks that are doing pretty well are talked to that in that way by folks all the time. And if you just go talk to someone like they put their pants on just like you do, then you have a level of respect where it's just like,
right. And you have to participate in order to get that respect. That's why networking just doesn't work if you're just in a room with people whom you serve or intend to serve, not in a place where you
to be a
intend to
part of it.
advise, because you're so good that they should be kissing your ass to do their stuff too. You know?
Yeah. So talk about watches. That was the first thing, right? So how did that come about? Was it just like you decided to buy a watch one day and then?
No, I actually saw a guy I had a car. I was in a car club, and I saw this dude that had two cars instead of one car, and I was like, oh, like at the time I had a 911. I had a 911 turbo, and he had a Gallardo and a 911 turbo, and I was like, oh, you're much richer than me, so cool.
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, you don't look that old. So in my head I was like, what does he do? And everybody's like, he sells watches, and I was like, okay, so I want a nice watch. So
Yeah.
I started looking, and I went to him to buy a watch, and I kind of observed the process, and I was like, what else do you do? Like, you have a job? Or he's like, no, it's my job. Like, I was like, oh, you sell just watches on a form and you make that much money that you have two of these cars? And in my head, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And then I was like, oh, let me investigate what to buy this watch for. So I bought my first watch from him. I sold it later when I was bored of it, and I made money, and I was like, damn, that was fast. That was easy. Like, I just sold the watch like everybody wanted. It wasn't like, oh, it's going to take weeks or months to sell. And then I was like, wait, I made like 15% in like 10 seconds of trying. I was like, what if I would have bought it and sold it the same day instead of like keeping it because I
Yeah.
wanted to wear it? So I started buying and selling watches with the intent to sell them,
Right.
like privately, not like as a
So
business.
like someone that's going to hand it down 5 generations.
Yeah,
and
no,
then-
so I just bought them, sold them, and I did it passively. And at first I sold like 5 watches a year, like nothing big. I would just buy 5 watches for myself, swap them out, and kind of sell and go. And then eventually I was like, wow, I'm really like, the velocity of money can be really fast with this. I was like, if I can actually like focus on it. So I started doing it more seriously. And then I started selling like 10, 15 watches a month. And then I started realizing like, oh shit, I'm making like $200K in pastime income while I'm like earning $200K at the bank. You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
this is fucking stupid. Like, so in my head, I'm like, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, so I was like, this is stupid. Like, because as a hobby, like, it wasn't even work. It wasn't even like sitting there, like, I got to figure out a strategy to list this, take some professional photos. I was like, just like, I would take a couple of pics, and I would literally do it at times with like these digital disposable cameras. It was like the stupidest shit.
Yeah.
And it would sell on Craigslist, and it was just a big deal. And I was like, okay, like, it just made more money. And I would make equal amounts of money as I made in the bank on my hobbies. And so that's why when I got fired, I was like, maybe like there's a thing there, and I should focus primarily on alternative assets like cars, watches, and everything else. And I was like, there was such a misconception about just the investment in these things, because so many people saw this as a problem, because they continuously looked at this idea of owning an exotic car from the lens of owning their Mercedes. And again,
Yeah.
this is what I mean when I say you can't solve problems looking at poverty from the poverty lens, because they don't understand how larger things work. So they looked at everything from a lens of like expenditure. Like if my payment is at $500 in a Mercedes, then why would it be cheaper if it was $3,000 in a Ferrari? And I was like, well, because you're looking at it from a place of expenditure, not equity. So again, because I was in banking, I understood the equity equation really well, but they just, for some fucking reason, even my boss was like, I don't understand. This is so much money. How do you make the money to own this? And I was like, you pay me. You know what the fuck you pay me? You're
Yeah.
not retarded. So it was like, he's like, you spend all your money on a car? I'm like, no, like, it doesn't fucking cost me anything. They're like, I don't understand. I'm like, it's basic fucking math. You're a
Yeah.
fucking bank VP for like fucking 10 years. You should figure this out. It's not that hard. And he just could not fucking do it. So like, it just came to that point where I was like, the people I work with are absolute fucking imbeciles. And I was like, and yet they're in charge of other people's money. So it was like, and so I stopped giving a shit. And that's why basically shit hit the fan, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, that's most folks. You know, you if you're making the same amount of money that you're making at a job where you have to, kind of conform, then why wouldn't you go work for yourself? Why wouldn't you take that same mindset?
Well, I mean, and for me, it was so comfortable though. Remember, I was 18 years old, and by the time I was 25 when I got fired, I mean, this is in the early 2000s. So to have a 7-figure bonus and a $200K paycheck in the early 2000s is the equivalent of having a job pay you $550,000 now and
Yeah.
having $3 million a year as a bonus. So it's a big fucking deal for
Yeah.
a kid, with no expenses, no heavy debt,
Right.
nothing to be like fucking balling out of control, like it was just out of control. Like buying $2,000 suits when, like you came from poverty is a big deal, like having a Lamborghini and like doing these things. And it kept adding up, in the sense that it kept opening my eyes to this world that existed that I was like, I'm nobody in, because all these people are way richer than me. They got, at the time I had a Gallardo, the other dude's got a Murcielago SV, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this guy's like next level,
Right.
Couldn't even get an SV, like, so this dude's like fucking driving in, and I was like, I need to keep pushing in this world, because it's a much better world than the world that my mom came from, which was
Yeah.
the poverty world,
You take care of mom after you made it big?
Oh, always. Yeah. My mom always lives with me no matter what. Yeah. Whatever house I build, I always take care of her.
Same. I just saw mine yesterday. I said, Mom, I'm going to get you a car.
Yeah, I see my mom literally every single day, and she's like 84 years old, so she's in good shape. She walks around, she hangs out, but
nice.
like my mom has access to every penny I own, so she can do whatever she wants. Meaning she's the only person that I never question the logic on, even if I don't like what she wants. Does that make sense? Like I just go like, it's fine. We got here because you sacrificed 20 years of your life to give me the chance to take over. So now I took over. So now that I won, I can't look back and be like, well, you know, like you didn't make it this far. I did, you know. So I look at it and I go, it's a continuation of the journey, so it's fine. You know, like even when you do something stupid or you want to help a family member that I disagree with, I'm just like, I don't give a fuck. You know, it's your choice. You do as you want.
Venice Commercial Services doesn't just lay concrete, they build trust. From driveways, pavers, and decorative concrete, their team brings honesty, precision, and craftsmanship to every job. Concrete and memories are forever. Make yours with Venice Commercial Services. Visit vcservicesfl.com.
Yeah. What about like, I guess the transition, or what was probably the most adverse part of your life?
And that was the difference between like winning and losing. It was constant trial and error, nonstop. I lost a girlfriend. I lost like friends. I isolated myself from even my mom. I wouldn't even talk to her. Wouldn't eat. Wouldn't do anything. And then, 4 years later, when we figured it out, and I made like my 40 grand or whatever, I was the happiest I've ever been. And people were like, I don't understand. They're like, you gave up probably $12 million to go make $40,000. Why the fuck are you so happy? This should be a disaster. And I go, I don't think you understand. I just unlocked everything. I was like, because I figured out how to sell air to people. And I was like, and I just figured that out. And I sold 40 grand of it, which means that I didn't even have the tools, and I figured out how to sell 40 grand of it. So now all I have to do is turn on the machine and sell more air. And people were like, I don't understand. And I was like, yeah, you're about to. And then every year after that was some fucking insane astronomical number that just kept growing and growing at a pace that was astronomical.
Right.
I'm not saying it made, the year after I made $100 million.
But it took that, going through that, right? And disciplining yourself no matter what.
Well, it took the choice that it was where I wanted to be. And I was going to have to do what I had to do to figure out how to be in that place. I want to be a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm going to figure out how to be a doctor. Meaning like it could take me 10 years, 5 years. It wasn't a choice of if I'm going to be a doctor or not. The argument was I was going to be an online teacher. I was going to figure out how to do it. And it took me 4 years to figure out how online world worked, how online teaching worked, and what I needed to do to be who I wanted to be on there. And from there, it just came down to keeping the same velocity going every year since and never stopping. I haven't stopped working one day since I was 14 years old, even to this day. Yeah, I'm rich enough to like retire for 3 generations straight, and I'm still not.
I think you get like addicted to it though, or like if you're so good at it, you feel like there's no other way to.
No, it's not that. It's because the one thing you learn once you get really good at something is that your time comes and your time ends.
Yeah.
This is just reality. It doesn't mean that like I end, my time ends,
right.
Which means that the same amount of effort it took to learn how to be online, which was, a good 4 years of destruction, is the same amount of effort it's going to take now, even if I have money today, to relearn a new industry, a new way, a new angle. And if you don't milk every opportunity you have during your time, whatever that time is, like the internet is soon going to die for AI and all of these other things that are changing the internet itself. So my time was then to now soon ending. Does that make sense? So,
get it while you can.
Exactly, because if you don't, it'll take you 5 times the effort to reinvent yourself again to then start from zero when you could just milk it until it's done, meaning until the task is done. And the task is soon to be done. We're like 3 years away, but the point is that if we hadn't worked with this velocity, it's possible that by the time the era ends, regardless that you like it or not, because time takes its place with or without your approval, then we weren't done, right? So we would have missed our opportunity and said, we got to start over again. So I don't want to do that. Like knowing what I know about myself, knowing what it took to get here, I don't want to restart. So meaning that if I'm not done, and my opportunity is not final and closed by the time this era ends, then I'm not interested in starting over. So therefore, I have to choose either I wanted an average lifestyle and I had enough money to live an average lifestyle the rest of my life, 2 cars, nice house, the bullshit that they sell you the American dream on. Either it was that, or I had this grandeur of 2 jets, 50 cars, 20 houses, 6 continents, and this is what I want. So if that's what I want, then the level to uphold that, because I'm not Mike Tyson or some cartoon that spends all of his money and doesn't understand how taxes work.
Yeah.
So you have to basically work at a pace where you're 10 times heavier than your burn rate, which means that if I spend $100K a month, I have to make $1 million a month every single fucking day for 10 years until I can get to the point where I can sustain that lifestyle, even without the $1 million coming in. Does that make sense? Because it's preset. Can you have it? So once you determine what your future burn rate is, you have to figure out basically how to build so much above that so that you can live in a way that fulfills a lifestyle that personally satisfies you. Now, this isn't a question or an argument about one person would say, well, who needs 2 jets and 50 cars? It doesn't matter. You're not me. I want to live that way. You don't have to. You could be happy with just a very basic life, and you would want to have 2 kids, and they're going to school, and you're happy. Like, okay, then fucking be happy. I don't give a fuck. That's not my problem. But how I want to live is how I want to live, and how I want to live has a cost, and how someone else wants to live has a cost. So whatever that cost is, if you have that built out 10 times your burn rate, then you're usually going to be able to sustain it even past the point where the income stops. Now, thankfully, the income never fully stops, right? Because you have investments and you grow, and once you're rich enough, you can diversify where the money comes from. But what I'm saying is active money, which is from business, is irreplaceable by passive money. Irreplaceable, which means that active growth is significantly...
It could go up and down. And
active growth is significantly stronger, than passive growth. So for that reason, when you have active growth and it's working, and the universe is telling you can do 3x next year, 2x, you can keep growing. You keep going. You don't go, now's the time to go on vacation in the Bahamas for 6 months, and I'm going to hang out because I'm tired of working. You double down, you work 10 times harder, and then when things are great, you work even 10 times harder, so you don't take your foot off the gas because it's great. So when things get bad, you're flying through where everybody else is suffering. You're like just fucking killing it. And at some point, the universe goes up and down, goes up and down, goes up and down, but it doesn't change your velocity so fast that doesn't matter what happens. You're just riding it through. So even if you drop 10%, you're already ahead 300%. So you drop 10%, you still ahead 208. It doesn't matter. So you're so far ahead that you just can't fall in that regard. And then once you're done, you're done. Now you can choose what you want the rest of your life to look like. Or you look at that point, you go, hey, I've worked. Now I've created passive streams, and I'm fine sitting back. And even if these passive streams dry out to zero, changes nothing. Meaning nothing will change,
Do you have a cracked driveway or need pavers done? Venice Commercial Services handles it all. Commercial and residential concrete and pavers. Top rated with over 55-star reviews. Venice Commercial Services. Visit vccommercialservicesfl.com.
Right now, the auto industry is going through what the jewelry industry went through the first COVID. The car dealers stole a pattern right out of the car jeweler's playbook and are playing it right now for increased values on cars. The way they behave, the way they sell inventory, the way they hide inventory, all these things are exactly from the jeweler playbook. They're not invented by car dealers. They're not that smart. They're morons, most of them. They basically move to the jeweler industry and steal that idea and basically bring it over. But because no one's paying attention to jewelers or was paying attention in 2020 to jewelers, they're not seeing what car dealers are doing today.
Yeah.
So they're not understanding these patterns because they're looking at cars from cars and they go, that's never happened before. Like, what is going on? Or they'll say, but this is the same pattern as COVID then. Like, cars are just going up in value. That's what it is. And it's like, it's not that simple. Yeah. So manipulation occurs in so many different ways, but it really comes down to understanding the analysis on the patterns. And that's what makes my predictions so accurate, because I know how they played out before, and I can transverse them over the next industry and be like, this is what they're doing, and here's the way they're doing it and why. And then people are like, I don't get it. And then it happens because I'm like, you see, this is the next playbook, and the next one's going to be this, and the next one is that. And then it happens exactly in that order. And they're like, holy shit. And I'm like, yeah, it's not a science, because they're not reinventing it. They're just stealing it. They're stealing it. Yeah. And if you steal it, then you're like...
And it's happened many times before.
Yes. Yeah. And it'll continue to happen. Yes.
You talking about the F12s?
I'm talking about all markets. Yeah. I'm saying just generally what's happening in the car market.
Somebody, a dealer not to be named down south, bought a bunch of F12s, right, and then just raised the price on them.
That's different. So that's market domination. You're talking about Car Your Motors, which is Jacob's a really nice guy, really good guy. Doesn't change that. What he's done, he didn't change the price on the F12. He basically he buys significant amounts of inventory on scale and then controls the market and then sends them to auctions because he times it. He's been very successful, maybe 6 out of 8 times on doing that, and he does it in a manner because he's a car dealer, he can hold the inventory forever. So he moves through these cycles. He's very good at predicting the next cycle, but he doesn't manipulate the cycle. All he does is he gets in front of the cycle like I do, but he can do it on a floor line that's like 50 cars at a time versus like a normal person can buy 50 of the same cars at the time. So he can speed up that market. But what he's doing doesn't change the market, just speeds up what's already going to happen anyways.
Yeah. No, I thought that was unique.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's good if he can afford to do it. He's doing it. I don't think he can still do it because the inventory doesn't support it anymore, but he's done very well with that strategy generally. You put him on the map.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say of everything that you've built, everything that you got going on here? What would you say that, the legacy and impact it is that you want to leave? Obviously, teaching's important to you.
No, I mean, I teach alternative assets because people need to learn money before they learn about themselves. And money is a societal concept. So if you don't have no money, you don't participate in society. Therefore, you're an idiot. So if you aren't participating in the society you live in, then you're a total fucking failure in life. Because before you get, people usually say money is not a life, but money comes before life. This is where they get it wrong. Because whatever your choice of life, it's dependent on the money you make, regardless of how you want to live. Even if you want to be a family man, your kids will need money and they eat food and they're not fucking cooking chickens and you're not taking a spear and going and killing your neighbor to feed them. Yeah. So as long as that occurs, then money comes before life, which means that when you live in a society, the society functions on a global currency, which is money. Now that it's the dollar, the yen, whatever currency you live in, it doesn't change the fact that we have a system in place in a society, not to be the who's the richest guy, but to say, if you want a good, if you want food, you trade this currency for this. So to ignore money and to say, oh, who needs to be rich these days? Like, that's overrated, is an absolute act of stupidity by the poorest people who can't afford or know how to trade their talent for any money. Because they have no fucking talent or skills. That's why they're fucking lost causes. But if they're not participating in society, then they're basically saying, I have no value to provide society, so I have nothing to trade. I don't create any resources, so I don't have anything to trade. I don't know how to make money. I don't know how to do anything. In the old days, they'd kill you for this. They're like, you're useless. They take you outside.
You better learn how to sharpen a knife or something.
Yeah, exactly. They fucking shoot you. They're like, you're useless. You can't do anything. You can go and fucking clean shit or something. Yeah. But so people have to have value because they understand what they're capable of doing, which means they have to practice something and have something they're willing to provide. If they provide that value, then they're going to go ahead and learn about themselves and also learn how to harvest resources. So resources matter because without resources, one cannot define who they are, their own identity, their environment, and their selves. So that's why I teach consciousness after I teach money, not before. And many people in the world of religion or in the world of spirituality will steal these things and make people go to religion or spirituality in order to avoid dealing with society, monetary success, and everything else because they feel it is, like their escapism. But here's reality. All the people saying that are rich themselves. All the pastors saying that are rich themselves. They have their own airplanes. So why do you, again, don't tell what you do, show them. What do you do?
Let the walk
You're getting rich.
Talk. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you're walking the walk of money, then why are you teaching the walk of peasantry, right? So it doesn't make sense. So what ends up happening in the world is that we generally have created religion and spirituality as escapism for accountability. So we basically look at those things as, how can I escape accountability to myself and to the society I live in? Well, I have a greater purpose. God gave it to me. God willing. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. It's really simple. You either provide resources or you don't. Whatever the fuck you believe doesn't make a difference. You still live in society regardless if you believe it or not. Yeah. So you still have to create resources, and praying is not going to buy you groceries at the supermarket. But being resourceful is going to do that. So if you really care for your kids, learn to be resourceful so they can learn to be resourceful, and so on and so forth. Being a person with no resources and no trade and no talent means that you're not providing any value to anyone or anything. And therefore, you don't get any value from anyone or anything. And that's how it works. Why do the richest people pay the least for things they have? Because people believe they're valuable. So they go, I'll give you something of value. Yeah. What can you do for me? Can you give me some advertising? Can you do something? They don't go to the poorest people and go, can you tell your 6 followers or nobody, please, use me for my car wash. I'll give it to you free. But they'll go to a guy who probably has the $100 to pay for the car wash, who has 10,000 followers, and say, hey, buddy, like, I'll wash your car for free. And like, maybe you tell your
Yeah.
friend, okay, but that guy doesn't need it. The guy that needs a free car, which probably needs it more. But it's not how this works. So they go to a resourceful person. They go to a person with some talent, and they go share my talent with others, and perhaps that will come back tenfold for me. I'll display my talent for free.
Right.
They're not interested in displaying the talent for free for a poor person, right? So these are the dynamics really that just govern the world that people just don't want to face or talk about.
Yeah. What's next for you?
Nothing. Hopefully, if I
Nothing?
continue to do what I do and I finish, I'll be done. And I don't have to have something next.
Where's the finish line?
The finish line is soon. We're working on a lot of projects that are coming to fruition. I've now hired a COO that's hopefully going to be trained to be CEO of my companies, so I can basically no longer function in any of my companies at any given time and just take the passive role we discussed earlier
How do
instead
you
of the
feel
active.
about that?
It's a long work in progress. I mean, there's a lot of.
I mean, like stepping out.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind that. A lot of people think that like you're addicted to work, etc. Like my life is so meaningful in my
Just
work.
like doing it.
Yeah, I'm going to do it for free anyways, meaning after I'm done, I'm still going to do it. I'm just not... The difference between being in your business and working on your business is that it doesn't mean I'm not going to work in doing what I love doing anyways.
Right.
It simply means that I don't have to be involved in any aspect of decision-making on a scale that does not change my life personally, which means that if I'm still the face of teaching these things, right, I don't think that'll ever stop because I love teaching and this is what I want to do. I'm not like someone else pretend to be my book reader and go and teach what I write in my books. No, of course not. But at the same time, do I want to be in charge of like book sales? Do I want to be in charge of knowing which publisher to use for my next book? Do I want to be in charge of like knowing what kind of sales team I want to bring on, for the next platform I build? Zero interest. Like I'm so uninterested from it because the challenge is so mundane, stupid, and overdone already that like I just don't feel challenged doing it. So I go, if I know how to do it, then it's not interesting because I don't learn something new, But if I go somewhere else and I go, hey, you know what? Maybe I've never learned about private equity, maybe, and I go, you know what? Someone else is going to teach you that. You can go in that world, and I'd be interested in like maybe I spend the next 20 years learning something new and deploying capital at a different rate outside of the jewelry or car industry, into something else. So what I'm saying is like these are just ways you evolve in life as an individual. You have to go places where you haven't gone before to learn things you haven't seen or learned before. And I think the world is so focused in comfort, and I'm the opposite. I'm always constantly looking for what am I uncomfortable doing, and then fuck it, do it and figure out afterwards like, did I do the right thing or not? You know?
Yeah. I think that it takes that uncomfortability though, especially if you have a mindset of like, wanting to grow. What's next? I want to get to the next level.
100%. You got to go places you're not willing to go to learn things you're not willing to learn, only to understand things you don't understand. Like I always say, everything you want in life is on the other side of everything you don't know. So.
Yeah. So what legacy is left? What are you leaving behind?
My books. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's enough.
All right.
I think the roadmap to human consciousness is enough of a leave behind concept. Will people buy billions of copies of it? I don't really give a shit. I wrote my books as more of a back end to my own life, like almost like a journaling backwards.
Yeah.
I don't really care if people read it. I know at some point they'll understand it. It's maybe too advanced today for people to get over their ego and say, this guy's very like specific. I don't like how he calls people poor, or like I don't feel like the warm and fuzzies. And I would say like your best teachers were never the ones you liked the most in high school. They were even in college. They were never the ones that you absolutely adored. Yeah, you didn't adore the guy. You weren't like, oh my God, like you live. I want to be your best friend. Like we're gonna hang out on the weekend. Oh yeah, I just want to make sure you're comfortable getting your A. Like no. Like they're the guys that show you a side that you didn't know exists. So if you can't get over the discomfort of learning, you're not going to learn anyways. So like I would say it's pointless to want to be liked by people. So, I speak my truth. If someone finds value in learning or understanding why I speak a certain way, they might read my book. They might find value in that. Now, I sold a lot of copies of my book, Third Circle Theory, which was very relatable to a lot of people, and less copies of the books after because they're much more analytical and they're like science fiction to people who aren't advanced enough to learn them. But I believe that I'm a big believer that as civilization evolves, as people evolve, they'll adapt more of the value systems in these books as modern society evolves to break down the boundaries that have kept them prisoner all this time. I think we're seeing it happen in the United States now. We're going to see it happen in Europe in the next 5-10 years. But there's a lot of shifting in how humanity lives now that is outdated based on systems that no longer work. Industrialism's over. The education system's over. These are over. Like the colleges are dead.
What about
it's over.
trades? Trades still got to be able to be taught.
Trade, physical trades, yes. Anything else, not so much. Financial systems are over the way they stood before, like the NASDAQ, or like all this shit. Like we're now going into a market where we've turned fucking the stock market into a casino. Like think about like the idea behind that in itself. So all that shit is over, and people are going to wake up the next 10 years to realizing that like every industry they've relied on, people thought government would save them, it fucked them.
Yeah.
People thought industrialism would stay forever, it didn't. They thought the education system would be their answer to success, it wasn't. And at some point, humanity will have to wake up and say, what the fuck? Like they bought into religion, it didn't work out. They bought into spirituality, it didn't work out. So like it just doesn't work because people have avoided the one thing that can make them super successful in life, and it's to become. And instead of just trying to mirror and mimic. And so people are going to wake up, and as a result, hopefully at that point, regardless that I'm dead or not, my books will come useful.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that will outlive us. Is something written, so definitely.
There you have it.
I love it. Just to become. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Where can people find you?
Super easy. I'm on Instagram, I Create Millionaires. I'm on YouTube, Exotic Car Hacks. Those are the easiest platforms to use me, or you can just plug in my name in Google and you'll get my social media.
Everything's there, the books.
It's been there for 20 years. The easiest way to go to read my books or join some of these teachings we talked about is learnfrompj.com. Super easy.
Awesome.
Cool.
What else you got to say to the folks at home?
Nothing. Just keep going, guys. There's no one coming to save you. Not today, not yesterday, not tomorrow. So the faster you save yourself, the faster you can grow.
I appreciate it, man.
You got
Definitely
it.
Awesome conversation.
My pleasure.
And guys, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, we're going to put all his links in the bio. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And thank you. Thank you for tuning in.